really appreciate you doing this from Washington today. My question is, if we could start with just some national news. It's been a little bit of time since we saw you, and you're at the top of the national news day in and day out, seeing you all over. And there's been a lot of reporting just since the last time we talked in January about that phone call when you called then President Trump to call off the mob, where he apparently said, according to reports, quote, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are." Is that accurate?
Well, I've already talked about that phone call. I think the best thing that we could do is moving forward. We've got a new administration. We've got a country that needs to get back to work, back to school, and back to health. And that's really where my focus is at.
Indeed. Is there a lot of people in the district have been asking me if it's true or not. I don't know. Is there any truth to what has been reported?
I think the truth out there is we got to get our kids back in school. We got to get our economy moving again. And unfortunately, we've got an administration in Sacramento that's trying to harm Kern County. From the energy industry. We're watching it time and again, not getting the new permits. We're watching jobs being laid off. We're watching kids. I just saw a latest report from one of the local school districts where more D's and more F's. I think that's really where our priority should be.
Indeed. So let's talk about schools. And that's exactly what I recently reported on, that D's and F's story. Tell me then, you think, to be clear, it's safe to return to schools?
Well, I believe the science says we can return to schools. And what we have to do is make sure the teachers and the students are safe. There are billions of dollars that we have passed to help school districts actually do this. And the one thing that I have found, from the vaccine to the protection within the schools, we've watched schools doing it as well. And what I'd like to see that we're finding is, there was a new study that just came out from Virginia Pediatrics. Anxiety, depression increased by more than 90%. We watched suicide that just came up from no report from the emergency rooms. Suicide for teens and adolescents has now increased. We watched our own current behavioral report this as well. This is a real concern, so it's more continuing to grow. And we're coming on the 1-year time frame, and more than 3 million kids have not been in school. So let's find a way. The science says we can do it. Let's work to make it happen. There are resources there to help. Just in our last bill, we produced $68 billion, and only $4 billion of that dollars has been spent. Now we're debating a new bill, but unfortunately, the way the Democrats wrote this bill, 95% of the money won't be spent this fiscal year. 2/3 of it won't be spent until 2023. That's not helping opening schools.
And I want to talk about that COVID relief bill. Quickly, let me ask just about the schools. For teachers who say, well, I'm nervous to go back to school until all the teachers can be vaccinated. What's your message to teachers?
Well, I would like the teachers to be vaccinated. And what's very difficult here is how poorly California has done by getting the vaccinations out. West Virginia is able to make this happen. Why can't California, with all of our technology, all of our ability? We have the ability. I've spoken to the mayor, where we could be doing 5,000 vaccinations a day right up to the fairgrounds. The governor has not been able to supply the vaccines. I mean, California is lacking so far behind. That's why David Valadao and a number of us other members have signed letters trying to find why the governor is failing so poorly at this, because it's hurting the health, not only for those in California, but getting California back up moving again. And we've watched the decisions that he has made compared to Florida. Florida predominantly, if you do per capita, it has a much older population, more vulnerable. They have stayed open. They've got similar numbers to where we are, where we've shut down, hurt businesses, hurt schools, hurt the parents from that prospect as well. So I think what I would do if I was Gavin Newsom, I would call the governor of West Virginia and say, send somebody out here and teach me how to do it, because he's harming a lot of people by failing so poorly.
And very interesting about the vaccines. I want to move on, though. Also, you mentioned the COVID relief. First of all, what is the goal? Is the goal to get everyday people in Kern County a check, a COVID relief check of X amount of dollars? And can they expect such a check from a new bill?
Now, this new bill only has less than 9% of the money goes to COVID. That means for testing, for vaccines and others. But it's one of the largest spending bills in the history of America, 1.9 trillion. Let me give you an example of what some of the money is being spent on. More than $100 million was put into this bill to build a tunnel in Silicon Valley. And you know what happened last night? In the Rules Committee, they added 40 million more for that. $140 million. Nothing to do with COVID, but the only reason why it's put in there, it's right next door to Nancy Pelosi's district, or the bridge that Schumer's putting in. This is what's wrong with this bill. It's not being focused on those who need the help, the assistance going forward. It's more, I like to refer to as a Pelosi payoff. That's what it's doing.
And would you support $2,000 checks as the former president had supported back in December?
No, I would not, and especially not the way they're handing them out. It would go to continue to waste to a number of people who've had their jobs the whole time. You need a surgical way of helping those who need it, and there's an ability to do that, but unfortunately, that's not what's being written.
Interesting. So, what's the amount of money or per check that you would be willing to put out there, to your constituents?
You know what I'd like to do? Open the economy. Give people a job instead of a check. Give them a career instead of a government check, because it will last longer. It will build. And that's what people in our community are saying. The number of small businesses that got shut down when in Florida they stayed open. The number of kids who can't go to school when other schools have been able to stay open. That's what needs to happen. Get the economy back moving together. The number of doctors who have said now we could be at the herd ability for the whole economy in society by April. If we had California putting the vaccines efficient as West Virginia, if we had been able to do it in a safe and sound manner, keeping businesses open, which they could have done, and also when you look at the schools, we had passed more than $4 trillion to assist in that. The PPP program to the small businesses and others. This is what I'd like to see happening. Get us back to the economy we know we can be.
On issues pertinent to the Valley, is there anything specifically that you and Congressman Valadao and the Republican Party, but you as a Republican leader, are willing to meet with the Biden administration about and meet halfway on certain issues or negotiate on certain issues? Or let me ask it in a different way. Do you think you could find agreement with President Biden on certain issues pertinent to the Valley? And if so, which issues?
I would work on any issue that President Biden wants to bring up. Whether I think I support it or not at the beginning, I will sit down and I'll work with anyone who wants to work on an issue for the Valley, be it water, be it energy. But you know what the president has done? Unfortunately, he hasn't met with us. We've sent him letters. We made phone calls. Just by a stroke of a pen, by eliminating federal land so we can be energy independent, harms our Valley. By making it more difficult to become energy independent, what he did with the pipeline. From an environmental standpoint, it's not right. From the number of jobs, more than 1 million that he's cut out, that hurts us. But I would like to sit down with the president on any issue.
All right. I think kind of gets me to my last question here, just about this Equality Act. I know it passed the House, but I know that you and Congressman Valadao voted against it. Why did you vote against it? And what is your message to your LGBTQ plus constituents who are worried that you and the Congressman Valadao voted against this?
No, I mean, read the bill. I'm opposed to the idea that you're allowing men to compete with women. I believe everybody is equal. I believe anybody in the LGBTQ community should be protected from all aspects. But what I have found in the bill went beyond that. And I've talked to a number of young women athletes that have a real concern that what is happening today is not fair in the process. And I believe they have a right as well.
I think the last thing, you're going to be speaking at CPAC this weekend, I believe I saw on the website. So is former president. What is, I don't want you to give away your whole speech. What are you going to say? And where do you see the former president's role in the Republican Party? Is he going away?
Look, I'll be talking with CPAC. We're talking about the exceptionalism of America, our future. How do we make America stronger? How do we build this economy? How do we compete in the next century with China and India? And there's a number of things that we can do to make sure that happens. I think the Republican Party has always been based upon ideas. So anyone who wants to bring the very best ideas and debate those ideas are welcome in the Republican Party.
And so, and I know the former president has said, and you met with him in Florida, I believe, a month ago or so. He has said he will be there in 2022. You tweeted out that when you met with him, that's what you talked to him about, right? So he'll be here, right? You think he'll be there at least through 2022?
Look, I believe the Republican Party is a big tent. We want people to join with us. I've watched in California the failure, the number of people who have moved out of our state, out of our city because of the regulations where they've harmed. I've watched it happen again. I'm watching the governor fail when it comes to getting vaccines so we can open our schools. I watched our governor shut down our state, but tell the Californians that he will not tell us the formula that he uses because somehow we're not smart enough to understand it. I think there's a better way. And I think it's a way that Republicans, Democrats, and independents can join together in the shape of making this country stronger. I'm willing to work with anybody who believes in that.
All right. I think that's a good way to end it. Congressman Kevin McCarthy, House Republican leader, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.